everybody, Sticks here with the Token Minorities, bringing you another deck on Pokemon TCGO, and today at the request of Necromancy. I believe Necromancy is something to do with like magic and dead people. But anyway, at the request of Necromancy, we have a deck centered around the combination of Garchomp from Breakpoint and Tyrantrum EX, the promo card. Now, just a reminder that if you enjoyed this video or found it helpful, please leave a like, drop a comment, and maybe subscribe. It really helps us a lot and helps us bring more and do more for you guys. But anyway, like I said, this deck is centered around Tyrantrum EX, 100 HP, a promo card with the Dragon Impact for 4 energy, 1 fighting, 2 metal, and a colorless. You can do 190 damage, but you have to discard 3 energy attached to this Pokemon, so really it's just kind of bring it in, absolutely demolish something, and then switch it out. And what is awesome is that it has the ability where this damage from this Pokemon's attacks is not affected by any effects on your opponent's active Pokemon. So all of that, like EX abilities to prevent a damage from them, completely shut down, so anything that your opponent has to prevent damage will not work. Now, like I said, Tyrantrum needs some acceleration because the attack does require you to discard 3 energy. We are pairing that up with Garchomp from Breakpoint. I've used a deck with this in the past, so you might know what it does, but anyway, the Turbo Assault 460, not 460 damage. For 1 energy, it does 60 damage, and you can attach an energy card from your discard pile to one of your Pokemon. Now, normally with this type of attack, it says you can attach a basic energy or something like that. That is not the case with Garchomp. You can attach any energy at all. That includes Double Dragon, DCE, all of those. So basically this is incredible acceleration. Once you discard them with Tyrantrum, just switch right into a Garchomp and attack with Turbo Assault to get the energy right back onto Tyrantrum. And also, Garchomp is an incredible EX killer with Bite Off for 2 energy, does 80 plus 80 more if your opponent's active Pokemon is a Pokemon EX. So we are running 2 Tyrantrum for the attacks and then a 4-2-4 line of Garchomp because, I mean, sometimes Garchomp can just win you the game on your own, so that's why we are running so many of those. Now, Tyrantrum does have a heavy retreat cost of 3, so we can't just be manually retreating or using a switch every time. So I am pairing it with Zoroark from Breakthrough with the stand-in ability, basically Keldio's Rush In, and also Mind Jack is a great attack in its own right. So basically, pair Zoroark with a Float Stone, you'll be able to rush in and retreat into the Garchomp to just start the acceleration process all over again. And then, of course, I have the 2 Shaman because it's Shaman, and I mean, Shaman is Shaman, and you can draw cards with it. And also, you don't really need to have a full bench with this team, so Shaman occupying a spot isn't the biggest deal in the world. On to the item cards, we are running 2 Level Ball for the Zorua, the Gabite, the Gibble. I mean, all of those guys. You only want to run a couple of those just because they can't really get everything that you want. And also in this deck, Ultra Ball is so much better because even if you have to discard a Double Dragon or a DCE, Garchomp can just accelerate those right back on, and those are great to have in the discard pile just because of the Turbo Assault. We're running 2 rare candies just to go immediately from a Gibble to a Garchomp. 1 Super Rod for when things inevitably get knocked out or discarded. You can bring them right back into the deck. 1 switch in case we don't have a Zoroark out and we start with a Tyrantrum and we really don't want to have to attach a Float Stone or retreat cost. I mean, Float Stone isn't the end of the world. Paying a retreat cost kind of is, so that is why we have a switch just in case we don't have a Zoroark up yet. And like I said before, we have 4 Ultra Ball because, I mean, they are great. They discard stuff, which is actually a pretty good thing in this deck, and they can get out any single Pokemon that you want. And finally, 4 VS Seeker because, I mean, VS Seeker is absolutely amazing. On to the line of supporters, we have 1 Judge. I mean, really just kind of if you have too much stuff in your hand or you want to disrupt your opponent. Really, this deck does not mind being down to 4 cards once it is fully set up because you will be getting your resources from the discard pile thanks to Turbo Assault, so you don't necessarily mind having a dead draw or something like that thanks to Judge, and it really disrupts your opponent to where they cannot get everything out that they want. Running 3 Karina just because, I mean, we have the Gible, Gabite, Garchomp, just get all of those out, grab a rare candy or an Ultra Ball or something. I'm probably running a little heavy line for Karina, so you can probably get by with 2, but I decided to go with 3 just because I want to make sure that I can get my Garchomps out and set up, and I can get a rare candy with them as well. So I mean, basically, Karina is what you use to find the fighting Pokemon, Ultra Ball and Level Ball is what you use to find the rest of the stuff. We have 1 Lysander just to bring some stuff out and knock it out. 4 Sycamore just for the guaranteed draw. Again, this deck does not mind having stuff in the discard pile. We have 2 Fighting Stadium. I mean, it really doesn't matter what type of stadium. Well, I mean, it kind of does because you want to benefit from it. But I decided to go with Fighting Stadium just because it helps out Garchomp's Bite Off, get KOs on EXs a little more, especially because we aren't running any strong energy at all, and I wanted to have a counter stadium just to disrupt my opponent a little bit and to have added damage when I need it. We have 1 Fighting Fury Belt. I mean, Fighting Fury Belt is great. It goes only on Tyrantrum. Tyrantrum is the only thing that benefits from it, hence why there is only 1. And this makes Dragon Impact do 200. It's not necessarily a magic number or anything, but it is really just nice to have the extra HP on Tyrantrum because 220 is more than a lot of Megas and as much as some others. 2 Float Stones, 1 for the Zoroark and 1 maybe for a Shaman or a Tyrantrum if you get stuck in a position where you need free retreat. 2 Muscle Band because, I mean, Muscle Band can go on absolutely everything in this deck. It powers up Garchomp's attacks. I mean, if you have 2 Zoroark out, you can use a Muscle Band on one of them, and then Tyrantrum, you can hit 210, which is an OHKO on some EXs. So, I mean, Muscle Band is absolutely phenomenal in this deck. We're running the absolute max 4 Double Dragon Energy because you want to attach those only to Tyrantrum and you will be discarding them every time you use Dragon Impact. And also, you can discard them and then immediately reattach them with Garchomp later in the game. Like if you have an opening hand with a Sycamore and a Double Dragon Energy or 2, it is okay to just discard those because you will be able to Turbo Assault those onto the Tyrantrum. So that is what we are going for with the Double Dragon. We are also running 1 DCE, really just for the Zoroark. I mean, that is a case where I don't have a Tyrantrum out or Tyrantrum is completely powered up and I want to be able to power up the Zoroark in 1 turn. That is why the DCE is there. And then 7 Fighting Energy. Everything in this deck does not mind having Fighting Energy on it at all, so that is what I'm going for. Really, you want to have 1 on the Garchomp, and then you want to be accelerating the Fighting Energy onto the Tyrantrum, or maybe even power up a Zoroark manually, well, not manually, but with Turbo Assault and regular Fighting Energy. So that is really the deck. It works out very well when you can get set up. It's a little tricky to get fully set up, but once you do, this deck can just absolutely tear through can tear through opposing decks. However, it is tricky, like I said, to get set up, but anyway, I'm done rambling, and let's just go ahead and see this deck in action. Alrighty, we have found one against Mac Diaz with a fighting and normal deck, so we very well might be in a mirror match, which means that the Fighting Fury Belt will come in very, very, very handy, and Zoroark might just be the thing that puts us over the edge. Let's get the coin flip. We do get to go first, which is phenomenal. Yes, please. That means we will most likely be able to evolve first, and I will start with a Shaman. Wow, that is horrible. I mean, unless I get like a DCE and a Muscle Band or something like that. I do get a switch, so I mean, I suppose it's not absolutely terrible, but I mean, it's pretty bad. We do see a Machop, so what I am going to go ahead and do is Level Ball into a Gible to go ahead and put that there. Go ahead and Sycamore. Oh wait, I should have played the switch. Ah, oops. I mean, I do get a Super Rod, so that's not the end of the world. But what I am going to go ahead and do is just retreat into the Gible. That was not the best start. Going to go ahead and Ultra Ball away this and this to grab another Shaman. Yes, and then I'll Super Rod back in the Zoroark and the regular energy, and then play the Shaman down. I should have played the switch. That was a waste of energy on my part. But I mean, hey, it gets one more in there, so I guess it's not the absolute end of the world. And we do get another Gible, which is great. What I can do is Karina next turn for I mean, for a Rare Candy and a Garchomp, and then I think I'll just end my turn right there. I want to wait and see what I need to Ultra Ball for. If my opponent cannot evolve the Machamp, we will be able to OHKO that with a Turbo Assault. I do have pretty much a guaranteed Karina next turn, unless my opponent judges me or something like that. And okay, it's against a Lucario deck, which means I think we actually have the advantage because Tyrantrum can OHKO Lucario, and it looks like my opponent is just conceding the Machop in the active spot, so that is great for us. My opponent goes for a setup, gets some more cards, attaches to the Lucario on the bench, so that could be a little problem in the future, although I don't think there is a way that he will be able to... Okay, so he just goes into the Lucario. Man, he will be able to knock out the Gible in one shot. That's pretty devastating for us because wow, my opponent... Okay, so he does not get a Super Scoop Up, which is great. He will be able to get a knockout on the Gible, which is a little problem. Yeah, but, I mean, it's not absolutely the end of the world. I'm just going to go ahead and promote the other Gible. And that is exactly why I played another Gible down. Just going to go ahead and... let's see, Fighting Stadium. Gonna go ahead and play this onto the Gible. Gonna go ahead and Karina for, I think, do I want to Karina this turn because I don't have anything else out? I think what I'm gonna do is Ultra Ball away the Lysander and the VS Seeker to grab a Tyrantrum just to get that out, and then I will Sycamore and hope that I can draw something that works. I mean, I know that this is kind of risky, but like I really don't want to have to worry about that. And also, that is great. We immediately get a Garchomp. That is phenomenal. I can even go ahead and Level Ball for a Gible. I think it's probably what I'm going to do just in case one gets knocked out, or do I want to go for a Zorua? I don't think there's any way my opponent can knock out my Garchomp next turn. So what I think I'm going to do is go ahead and go for the Gible, go ahead and play that down, and then I think Ultra Ball for the Zorua. That way I'll have a Sycamore still in my hand to be able to evolve, to be able to draw more cards next turn. And this way I can go for a Turbo Assault, get some really good damage off on the Lucario, put the Double Dragon Energy onto the Tyrantrum, and we are in a very good position for next turn. Like I said, I don't think there's a way Lucario can knock us out, and this way we threaten the KO on Lucario with a Bite Off next turn. And my opponent even has Crushing Hammer. I don't get what he's using this deck for. I don't get why people just throw Crushing Hammer randomly in decks. I mean, it's interesting, but my opponent does get to draw more cards. That is just fine. I have to Sycamore away a Garchomp, which is probably the last thing I wanted to draw, but I will be able to Bite Off this turn, and I think that will be a KO on the Lucario, and I could Turbo Assault, but I think in this case I just want to Bite Off to get the KO on the Lucario to draw 2 prize cards, and then I can just attach the Dragon Energy next turn, Ultra Ball for a Zoroark or something like that. And I'm in a very, very, very good position right now. My opponent can technically knock out the Garchomp with a setup with like a Fighting Fury Belt or a Muscle Band or something like that. But I do have a Gabite in the background. I have a Garchomp in my hand. So basically we are in a very good position. My opponent will Rare Candy into a Machamp, which means he will be able to do more damage, meaning that I'm probably going to want to start powering up Tyrantrum, even though if my opponent cannot retreat Shaman this turn, I will just take the prizes in the with the Bite Off. And then I'll attach a... Okay, my opponent just concedes. Our setup was a little too good. And like I said, I mean, this deck is really centered around powering up Tyrantrum with Garchomp. But Garchomp can win plenty of matches on his own. And yeah, that was that one. Let's just go ahead and try to find another match. already we have found one against a Dark, Psychic, and normal deck. It's like, what was it, MXL1. We do get to flip the coin. Can we go first? Yes, we do get to go first. That is great. And even though it is a fighting deck, we do not have any weakness to Psychic, so that is not bad. Our starting hand is bad because we don't have any Pokemon to start with, so that is very unfortunate right there. We will mulligan, meaning my opponent will get an extra card. But if we still get a hand kind of close to this, like if the Zoroark was a Gibble, I would be able to work with this hand just fine because I would be able to Ultra Ball away the Double Dragon and like another Ultra Ball or a Fighting Stadium or something to grab a Shaman, play the Fighting Energy onto the Gibble, but alas, we have to send it all back. And we do get a Gibble and a Rare Candy Garchomp, so that is... okay, that's not bad. I can definitely work with this turn one because I can just Karina for, I think, a Gibble and maybe an Ultra Ball or something like that. Okay, my opponent does start with a... okay, so he must have gotten the Yveltal off of the... oh, my opponent just scoops. Okay, that is just fine with me. I mean, obviously that doesn't count, so we'll just try to find another one. Okay, we have found another one, and hopefully this goes better than the last one. This is against Danny with a Fighting Psychic Dark normal deck and with a Steel coin, so I mean, might just be going for like a, I don't know, maybe that's the only coin he has. We do lose the coin flip, which really stinks because I want to go first with this deck. This deck hates going second. I mean, you always want to go first using this deck. There is no perk to going first. Well, there's no perk to going second. I mean, there's really nothing at all except for like drawing with never enough, but then you lose a Gibble in the process, which is not something you want to do. Luckily, my opponent mulled again, so we will get to get another card, which is an Ultra Ball, which is something I can work with, and my opponent starts with a Shaman, so okay, that is something I can work with. Never mind, he has a Float Stone. That means he'll probably be able to KO the Gibble next turn unless he brings out like probably a Yveltal or a... oh, he decided to go for a Shaman for one. My opponent must not have a good hand at all, so I think we might have been able to dodge a bullet. Yep, he has to completely just redraw his hand with Shauna. That is something that I do not mind at all. I think... wow, okay, so we're in a very, very, very good position. What I can do is just attach to the Gibble, go ahead and Ultra Ball away the Gabite and one of the Fighting Energies. I mean, it really doesn't matter in the long run. Grab another Gibble. I'm probably just going to go for a Sycamore this turn to... yeah, there we go. Get a new hand. We get a Karina. And wow, we get a bunch of Double Dragon Energies. So I'm just going to Never Enough get rid of one of the Double Dragons to draw 2 more cards, see if it's something we can work with. And that kind of is, I guess. What I can do is Karina for a Rare Candy and a Garchomp to be able to actually Oko the Shaman next turn with a, what was it? What is it? Bite Off, I think is the attack. I mean, I use it all the time, and I cannot remember for the life of me. So this is actually a very good spot for us because my opponent does Ultra Ball away. Okay, so this is like a Yveltal Gallade deck, I would think. Like Yveltal EX Gallade deck. And while my opponent will probably be able to get something else out that's not a Shaman and will not allow me to Oko it next turn. Okay, we do just see the Zorua come down, which is interesting that he would Ultra Ball for that. What I can just do is go ahead and play the Karina to grab a Garchomp and a Rare Candy. I think, yeah, that is all I'm going to do for right now. Just go ahead and evolve the Gibble into a Garchomp, play the Fighting Energy onto it, and then I think I'm just going to go straight for the Bite Off, get rid of the Shaman, and next turn, if I have to, I can just Karina for an Ultra Ball for like a Gabite and Ultra Ball end. Okay, so I get all the energy I could ever want in my entire life, apparently. So my opponent sends out his other Shaman, he gets the Zoroark, and it doesn't look like he has much else. I think this looks to be just a very easy win for us. I do get a Tyrantrum. What I can just go ahead and do is Karina for a... I think I'm just going to Karina for a Gabite Gabite and I think probably an Ultra Ball to grab a Zorua. Yes, because I want to discard like the fighting and probably the Double Dragon. Let's go ahead and play that down there. Play the Double Dragon onto the Tyrantrum, Ultra Ball away the Double Dragon and the fighting to grab a Zorua. And while I could, you know what, I think I'm just going to go ahead and Turbo Assault because I kind of want to end this game off with a kind of a bang, as it were. Go for a Double Dragon, put that onto Tyrantrum, and then we are in a great position. I know I did less than I could with Shaman, but I really want to show off this deck and what this deck can do with just the acceleration and the powering through opponents. And unfortunately, it doesn't look like I get to because my opponent did not draw well. So that is a bit unfortunate. I didn't get to go for a Dragon Impact this live. I'm sorry about that, but I mean, you saw how the deck is supposed to work. And I mean, Garchomp wins plenty of matches on his own. And even if he had managed to take out the Garchomp, I had a fully powered Tyrantrum EX powered up in the back. I actually think I'm 0 for 2 on being able to go for the Dragon Impact with Tyrantrum in lives where I center a deck around it. So sorry about that, but nonetheless, I hope you guys enjoyed the deck. Please try it out for yourself. It's very fun, and once you get it fully set up, you just absolutely tear through teams. So thank you for watching, guys. Like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff, and this is Styx signing out. Why not? See you guys.